Hey everybody, this is Greg Petix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the Petixonian Institute of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our scholarly examination of Epic Illustrated Magazine. We're up to number 7 now, and it's August 1981 issue. We start off in a beautiful fashion. Beautiful Barry Windsor Smith cover art. And this is kind of when Barry Windsor Smith was away from comics for a while. He was basically just doing portfolios in the 70s. Wasn't doing any sequential narrative for anyone. And until he started coming back in the mid-80s. So it's kind of interesting. There's an interview with him in here, and we find out, what he was up to during that time when he wasn't really in comics. But yeah, gorgeous cover. I love these colors. The deep purple and the blues. Really nice stuff. So, we got the contents page. The overview, which tells us about the contributors by Archie Goodwin once again. And here, we have the front piece, or whatever, this is the main story of this issue. They got Neal Adams to go through his files and find the story that he wrote for Eric Burdon, I believe. It was a record project. It was going to be a very elaborate record. And probably like triple gatefold sleeves, and it would have all this art. But it never happened. And so the art was just languishing in a drawer somewhere. So Neal dusted it off and kind of turned it into this comic. And it's showing just all these various characters. It's very of its time. It's so like early 70s, showing all these injustices in the world. This kind of sums it up. It says, this story, well, it's not so much a story as it is a song about the way things are and the way things should be and how men should be free, but not have to die to be free. It's some very hippie notions in here. We see a young kid in Ireland, with a Molotov cocktail. He blows up an English tank. He's an Irish kid. And I don't quite know what that has to do with the story, but then we switch to a black soldier in Vietnam. And he falls in love with a Vietnamese woman. And he sees one of those monks burning themselves alive, which I guess was trendy back then. And a few monks did that to protest everything, the war, the violence. So he becomes this junkie. He's kind of scarred by this experience. And him and his girlfriend become junkies. And then they don't really explain what's going on here, but for some reason he's running, and I don't know if he's chasing some soldier activity, and it's these little kids who have scavenged all these guns, probably from dead soldiers, and they blow him away. They kill him because he can't shoot them. He looks into these little kids' faces like, I can't shoot a little kid. Then we see Geronimo, and in his later years when he was in captivity, they took him to the St. Louis World's Fair in the late 1800s, and he wanted to ride the Ferris wheel so he could soar like an eagle. And they talk about how years later somebody beheaded him and put his brain on display at fairs and stuff. Then we see this character named Jim Crow, whose mother was a Native American, his father was white. And he grows up and basically disappears one day. His father takes him to, he wants him to grow up civilized, so he takes him back east to learn the ways of, civilized modern life. He doesn't like it, though, and he runs off, and all of a sudden there's reports in the West of this guy dressed as a civil soldier, and he's leading other soldiers to their death. And it's this guy, Jim Crow. He's basically gone native, and now he's helping the Indians fight the white man. I think this is another character, and another Native American character, and he's been, seeing these visions in his head, but he goes to turn himself in. He figures that's the only way we could survive, And they totally, the soldiers lie to him. They say, we'll give you a little piece of land if you just, stop causing a ruckus. But they shoot him in the head. And it's implied that they rape his wife. So now we jump ahead to Brother Abel, who's this rock star. And the mayor of New York City, where the concert is he's itching for something to happen. I guess his son was killed at a rock concert. So he's basically telling the cops, like, hey, guys, do whatever the fuck you want tonight. If you gotta bust some heads, I'll look the other way. So he wants a riot to happen. And of course it does. The cops start trouble. And some of the kids fight back. And Brother Abel's pleading from the stage. This is so sappy, this one. And he starts playing a song or singing a song. It actually makes everyone stop. Even the cops are just like, well, this song is so heavy. We're going to stop our riot. Which would never happen in fucking real life. It only happens in movies and bad comics like this. So then everyone, it's kind of working. The riot stops. Everyone's listening to a song. But this chief of police isn't having it. He's like, no, I'm going to fucking take this guy out. And he's about to shoot him. And all of a sudden, this UFO shows up. It incapacitates the chief of police. And it beckons the rock star to come on board. It takes him to this, some satellite. And there's the black guy, I assume that's the guy from Vietnam, and one of those Native American characters. And as the camera pulls back, we realize that they're on this giant naked woman, kind of like an Earth Mother. And they're basically impregnating her with their communion of thought. So they're sitting here all meditating, and somehow that's the seed which is causing her to give birth. And they leave after, they've done their business, just like guys do. They fucking around. And then we see this crazy 2-page spread of her giving birth to a planet. This is pretty nutty. And I like this, how she's just expelling it from her. She looks very satisfied there. That Neal Adams, man, he can draw shit. Even though his comic's kind of silly. So basically it's a new Earth where the creatures on it, the humans, will have another chance to get it right. And this time they will have learned. And they won't turn the Earth into a shithole full of hatred and violence and war. Or will they? And I don't know what the hell is happening at the end here. But now these three guys are astronauts. So I don't know if they're like, they did attain some kind of nice world without war and violence. But now they're exploring space and they're going to find our world and learn all about it. Because it says they've learned their lesson, haven't they? Little question mark. So of course, it's human beings. They'll probably screw it up. But this is so hippy-dippy. It's so goofy. It's nice to see Neal Adams' art. Because especially at this point, Neal Adams hadn't done a comic in a long time. And so I remember as a kid being like, wow, Neal Adams, not just doing a cover for once. Neal Adams was doing covers, that's about it. We got Media View by Denny O'Neil, the film review column. We got a nice return from Pepe Moreno. This guy's art is really just leaps and bounds, man. It's getting better and better. So this story is called Epis. And we see this Vietnam soldier, and his helicopter's leaving without him, and all the chaos, they just don't see him. He's trapped under some shit. So he's like, please come back. But they leave. So he's basically like, I'm probably going to die here. God damn it. And he closes his eyes and he wakes up. He's a Roman centurion on a different battlefield. There's still the smell of death, just like in Vietnam, but it's, a different era, a different war. And he gets up and he says, what mad gods keep us fighting and dying like this? And the god who does shows up. He basically says that there's many different names for him. different cultures. Some call him Shiva, Ishtar, Ares, Mars. But he's actually just Epis, god of battle, god of war. He's that's what all the other religions are worshiping when they worship their gods of war. He's the hurler of thunder. He's known by his 2 lightning bolts that are in his gauntleted fist. And so basically this guy's debating him. He's like, you're not worthy of worship. You're just a destroyer. You just destroy things, and you bring death and famine and misery. What? Worshipping you is stupid. By the way, I hope you're taking in this art. Just look at this Pepe Moreno line work. I mean, this guy's a very unique style, really good. So they continue their debate, and the soldier finally just says, mankind has to believe in ourselves, not some stupid gods. He spears him. And then he goes up to him, and he chops off the gauntleted hand with the 2 lightning bolts and throws it into the ocean. But then all of a sudden he hears this low rumble of a distant thunder. And it gets louder and louder. He's hearing rumble, rumble, rumble. And then it's because now he's back. The soldier leaves the ancient mythic past for the reality of Vietnam. And so that's a plane we were hearing. Planes. And he's like, oh, maybe they're coming back to rescue me. But he's like, oh, no, that doesn't sound like chapters. More like, no. And then this total carpet bombing. And he's caught in it. He's definitely a gunner. And then the camera, rises up and we see the American planes dropping tons of bombs on Vietnam. And their insignia for the Strategic Air Command is a gauntleted fist with 2 lightning bolts. Dun, dun, dun. Yep, typical Twilight Zone type ending. Epic, love that stuff. But, I mean, that's a really well-drawn story. So, not the best written story, but I could look at that again and again. So here we have a long interview with Barry Windsor Smith. This is kind of good just to see. They reproduce a lot of his art. So it's like getting a little portfolio of Barry Windsor Smith, because we weren't seeing much of his work but at this time. Comic fans weren't, because, like I said, he was doing portfolios. They were very limited and expensive. So I couldn't buy these. Or I didn't. I could have, I guess, but they were very pricey. So it's nice to at least get to see them at a smaller size. See what his art's been, how it's been improving since he left Marvel Comics in the mid-70s. There's the cover without the logo. Man, I really like that cover. Good stuff. More portfolio stuff. This is interesting. The Hand, that movie from like 1980, I think. And Michael Caine was in it. And he plays a cartoonist who has like a barbarian comic, in the fiction of the movie. And they got Barry Smith to do the strip that he draws, because they had to have some examples of, what his work looks like. And I kind of wish he continued with this stuff. He probably got paid like 50 times more from doing this little strip of panels than like getting, 10 issues of Conan he drew, because it's Hollywood money. I like this one a lot. Withering. That's a beautiful black and white piece. Classic illustration. So now we get 2 chapters of Metamorphosis Odyssey back to back. So we're at chapter 10, Requiem, and the Akhenaten just got back from talking to his god from last time. And he returns to his, he's telling the story of Zygodia to his comrades. He's telling them the whole history and how they were a pretty okay planet at one point. But then, of course, greed took over. Some people just wanted to be super rich, which meant a lot of other people had to suffer. It sounds kind of familiar. People lost themselves in decadence because they knew they had taken a wrong turn somewhere. And then things just got plain flat out bad, The well went dry. So then they became super fascist. The few rich, powerful people realized they'd really have to crack down on everyone else because everyone else is hungry and angry. So we just see this planet become just terrible. But then they start building like an interstellar fleet, and then they start spreading their shit to every other planet they come to. Finding a planet, extracting all its resources, exploiting all their people, and leaving it basically a dead husk when they're done with it. There's some nice, I like this page here, just weird, kind of abstract images. And when they met the Osirosians, they really did not like them because they reminded them of what they used to be. These are the Zygonians, and they're kind of similar genetics stock, I guess. And so they, totally killed them all. And here he is. We see he's telling these guys the story. And then we see a computer screen saying, terminate. Someone's watching them. And the Zygonian cruisers show up. So Dreadstar says, everyone to my ship. Because remember, Dreadstar's like their bodyguard. So he's got this little ship, but it's fast as hell. I really like this. Like in Star Trek, they always show those goofy little blinking panels for a starship. And probably most of these buttons, I can't imagine them doing much. But it looks kind of cool. I've never seen it drawn in such a way. So Dreadstar using some tricky maneuvers. He's got all these techniques. He outfights and outruns all these Zygonians. He even takes on a dreadnought. This is like their highest class battle station, and it can its guns can destroy a solar system. But he has this tricky way of getting inside the ship. He actually enters the ship when the shield's down for a second, and blows it up from the inside, and comes out the other side. So, yeah, that's it for this episode of Jim Starlin's Metamorphosis Odyssey. Well, the 2 episodes we got. And they escape the Zygonians, and they're heading for a planet called Dreamsend, which we will see next issue. This next comic was really weird to me as a kid when I bought this issue. It's J.K. Potter, with assistance from Tim Caldwell. J.K. Potter did a lot of stuff for horror fanzines. He did photo manipulations a lot. He actually had many fumetti strips like this, sometimes just drawings of pinups where he'd manipulate photos. And this, way before Photoshop. He was doing this old school, late 70s, early 80s. So we see this hobo type guy finds an egg in a garbage can. And he's going to fry it up in his little hobo camp. And right when he's about to crack it, he tries to crack it, it won't crack. And then this horrible face appears on the egg. And it flies up. And this guy's in shock and awe. He's like, what the hell? And it tries to zap him. It misses. The guy runs away. Look at this guy. This freaky fucking thing. It's kind of goofy looking. And he does zap him finally. He catches up to the hobo, zaps him. And then he cracks his head into the frying pan. Pretty dumb. But, yeah, if you're on pot, this would be pretty fun. It's just trippy, weird shit. I kind of like it. It's so ridiculous. We got another Stephen Grant's Game View, talking about video games this time. And here we have, I believe, the first appearance of John Bolton in Epic, the English cartoonist. And the story is co-written with Graham Marks, an English writer. And these colors are just so beautiful to me. These are just gorgeous. He's doing fully painted work on here. And I guess Epic's printings cleared up some of those early ones, the mistakes they used to make, because this looks damn good. And these 2 young kind of teenage girls are on their seahorses looking to hook up with their friends. I like this. They're all naked, but the guys have like little conch shells over their dongs. And so these girls are kind of adventurous, so they go like deep into the ocean where you're not supposed to go. They're supposedly like this demon who lives down there, and nobody ever goes there. God, look at this color. How great this is. So that's exactly what happens. They're down there hunting these crazy underwater fish, like deep water fish, and they're seahorses, and the demon comes out. And the demon's human size, like our size, which makes her way bigger than the Leias, as they're known. Because they're little tiny creatures, about 6 inches tall. So she's chasing them, and she gets one of the sisters, and the other one makes it to the surface, and actually makes it to the shore, which she calls the edge of the ocean. Because the Leias can survive, on land. And so she's just standing in awe. She's never really been up there, seeing the sun, seeing what it's like up there, feeling the air on her skin. And then she sees some object flying towards her. And she says maybe it's his inhabitants coming to greet her. She's unafraid as she waits. And then it's a Coca-Cola can. And these two kids, I guess, threw it. And it crushed her. So once again, just gorgeous, beautiful art. All for a dumb gag at the end. So whatever. But the rest of the story has some pretty good imagination. Obviously beautiful art and fun stuff. But yeah, just a weird way to end the comic. Pretty dumb. Pretty dopey. Book view. Who cares? Tim Conrad's returning after doing Almeric. This is some nice art, man. Talk about a learning curve. Just a few issues ago, we were looking at Tim Conrad's Almeric art, and it's kind of clunky here and there, he's learning. He is just like, this is complete photorealistic, amazing black and white art. Like, this guy's a master. And this is a weird little story where it's called UFO, and there's this guy, he's abducted this little girl, and we can tell from the radio reports, we can hear the police channel. I guess this guy went into a store, killed the clerk and a woman who was shopping, and abducted her daughter. So he's on the run. So the cops are looking for him, and a cop does see a truck that matches the description. And when he stops, and the cop is walking up to, see what's up, he just comes out of the truck, and he says, 2 for you, sucker, and he double barrel shotgun in the chest. And then he drives off. And then all of a sudden, the story takes a weird turn. A UFO shows up, and it basks him in this light. It's kind of like a healing light. He's totally fine. Yeah, look at this art. How good this shit is. So the cop, doesn't waste any time. He gets right back in his car. He's like, I got a job to do. I got to find that guy again. And, serve him some justice. So then the UFO catches up to the evil guy, and he makes his truck stop with his, UFO beam. And the cop catches up to him, and he says, he's aiming his gun at him. The bad guy is now using the girl, as a hostage, as a shield. He says, you come any closer, I'm going to shoot her. But then the UFO, once again, comes to the rescue. And in this really interesting font style, he says, it cannot be permitted. Child's destiny is significant. And it's blinding light down on him. And then it freezes him up. And he's caught in this beam, and he drops his gun so the girl can run away to safety. And then because, he's frozen, the cop shoots him right in the head. Look at that. This is some nice art, man. And then the UFO flies off. And that's the end. So, I don't know if there was ever a sequel to the story planned, or if we find out what the girl's destiny was, that she was worthy of saving from this UFO. Here we have a story by Dean Motter, the guy who went on to create Mr. X in the 80s. Well, actually, probably just a few years after this. And this is a very surreal, weird little story. Kind of interesting, but just, it's very daffy. It's truly surreal. People overuse that word a lot, but this is just goofy. So we have a little quote from Lucian, 2nd century BC in the front. I don't really even see how it pertains to the story. And we see a guy's about to have a duel, a normal-looking guy and a mime. And the mime doesn't even have a gun. He just has this pointy finger, like he's playing guns. And the guy shoots the mime right through the head, but it goes right through him. And then the mime, does this fake bang, and it totally kills the guy. So these kind of mortician-looking dudes show up. Well, I guess they're the seconds of the duel, but they look like morticians here. They put him in a carriage, and they drive off, probably to take him to a graveyard, or something. And really nice art. I've never seen Dean Motter draw this detailed. And this naked woman comes out, and one of the guys leads her into the cart. And then they all just slowly walk into the lake or the ocean. And there's another quote by Lucian. So, very strange, very surreal. Once again, don't know why, but I kind of like stupid, weird little stories like that. Even though I'm pretty sure there's no really meaning behind it. You can read some meaning into it, like a poem. We got the next issue blurb. I'm pretty sure Charlie and Flight Trap are on their way. So that's it for Epic number 7, August 1981. I hope you enjoyed looking through it as much as I did, because I love cracking these old epics open after, I don't think I've looked at these in like 25 years, some of these. So it's really fun for me, and I'm glad that a lot of the stuff still holds up. But I'll see you next time at the Petixonian Institute of Comic Book Studies.